Okay, welcome to episode 65 and part 2 of our Simple Christmas series. Now, last week we talked about Christmas. We focused on the idea that big does not equal better. And this week, as we look at less is best, we will really hone in on boundary setting during the holiday season. So important. And this month, we really want to give you some practical takeaways and support as you head into this season that's filled with lots of options and opportunities and lots of people. So today is just a part of that support that we've been trying to give you all week. You're going to want to go back and listen to our past few episodes for sure. And then next week, pretty excited because we will be tackling the power of our words. And all of these topics we feel really help us to have the holiday that we desire.
Mhm.
So on to boundaries to stay sane at Christmas.
Doesn't that sound good? Staying sane at Christmas, like let's that will be our goal this
Let that
Christmas. I
be
just
our
want to stay
desire
sane.
right there.
Yeah.
Let that be
Keep
it.
it real basic. Like, just stay sane.
It's a pretty big goal, really. Yeah.
Really? Yes, it truly is. Um, so you all may have heard this quote or something like it before, but the definition of insanity, it always kind of makes me laugh because I can
Mhm.
relate.
Mhm.
But doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Or another way to look at it is repeating an action that has not been successful while still hoping and holding out for a different outcome. Can
Yeah.
you all relate to that? Yeah.
Everyone's been there, done that.
Everyone's been there and done that. I sure think so. It's not just me, not just us.
No.
Um, but when I think about that in relation to holiday, boy, lots of things come up in relation to like Thanksgiving and holiday. Some of the bigger Thanksgiving and Christmas, the bigger holidays, maybe birthdays too,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, just the wear and tear that brought me um, I would do the same. I would repeat the same things over and over again, some of the same traditions and things, and think it was going to work out this year, but it wouldn't. So one of those things, and maybe you guys can relate, is driving, like driving all over the
Mm.
place. And that was really hard for my family and I when my girls were little. They were not ones that would sleep in the car. So they would be awake and very uncomfortable, very, loud about their discomfort and everything. And we're driving and driving and driving and hungry and tired and all the
Mhm.
things.
'Tis the
Uh,
season to be jolly. I'm thinking of
yeah,
singing
right.
kids and
Just crank up the music, and it
yeah.
didn't seem to help. But yet we would do that again, like next, somehow like there's like this amnesia that takes over or something like, oh, I forgot that last year
Yeah.
this was terrible, but now I'm remembering it again while we're
Yeah.
driving all over the place again. Um, and so part of that is trying to do multiple events in one day and
Mm.
everybody being tired and worn out from all the
Mhm.
socializing and everything and just trying to fit so much in one day. And then along with that, really like confining ourselves to doing everything on either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, like um, doing all the events on those days. Let's see all the family members on those days rather
Yeah.
than nobody, who made that rule that you have to do the things on those dates.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
This
um,
is this
and-
expectation that floats around out there that everybody tries to adhere to.
yeah, right. Yeah. So another thing is allowing other people's schedules to dictate our family schedules and needs.
Mm.
And there's grace in that, right? And like room to be what's the word?
Like,
Flexible.
and give or take, a little give or
Give
take
and
is
take.
needed. Yeah.
Yeah, give and take. There's certain times though, I think our most stressful times in my family with my husband and my daughters were when the girls were little. And I just think anyone out there listening that maybe has grandchildren or something, like the more flexible you can be, the
Yeah.
better. Um, and of course, it also takes like what I've learned is that I needed to voice these things, which we'll get to. But but instead of speaking up and saying that's too much for my family, we cannot do that. It won't be pleasant for anybody, if we
Mhm.
try to fit
Yeah.
all of that in, and you won't even want us at your house. um, So allowing other people's schedules to dictate your needs and things. And then leaving my hopes for traditions unvoiced. So part of what went un just unvoiced, I guess, for years was my desire to have Christmas morning at home.
Mm.
Just really wanting to be at home on Christmas morning, and having in-laws that lived hours away, we would end up staying at their place. And I learned that there was a way to compromise. Like they would want that. There was this, we wanted that too. We wanted the time with them and everything, yet it didn't need to fall on that particular day.
Mm.
And so once I said, like, gosh, I'm really realizing that that's really important to me to have Christmas morning at home, waking up, going to sleep Christmas night in my own bed, waking up
Mhm.
Christmas Day, and being at home. Boy, that just made everything else more doable. Like I
Yeah.
could handle it. And another piece was going to church on Christmas Eve, and that was where I found
Mm.
that I could be flexible and still get my need met. We could go to Christmas Eve with my in-laws. It wouldn't be at our church, so it wasn't like my number one first choice or anything like
Yes.
that. But I was still getting that tradition. I want to go to Christmas Eve service, then we would drive home, sleep in our own beds, and it really did make a world
Yeah.
of difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just I would do all of those things that I just listed year after year and be so disappointed
Mm.
because I got the same result. I didn't get what I wanted. Our family was really stressed out. And yeah.
Mhm.
Can you relate to any of that, Michelle?
Yeah, I do. A lot of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, yeah, so boundary setting is you could see that in Lisa's examples, how important it is. And I actually never really thought about all of the holiday stuff in the box of um through the lens of boundaries. I really didn't. So I'm grateful that you brought that out for me, Lisa. But Dr. Henry Cloud, of course, the master of boundaries, he's written many books on it, says
Yeah.
you may need better boundaries. If you constantly feel overwhelmed, you struggle to say no, you put others' needs above your own too often, you're afraid of conflict, and or you're always available for others, like 24/7, always available. That phone's on, you can help the world. I mean, when I read that list, I'm like, he wrote my biography right here for me. How did he know?
I think you're not alone, Michelle.
Yeah.
We're not alone. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
in that description right there, I think of my prime example, and there are many. I'll list a couple, but one is, so my stepdaughter would come. She moved out of state when shortly after we were married, and to be with her mom in Pennsylvania, and we're in Washington. And she'd come at Christmas, and we'd get so excited, and I would just go all out and do everything I can. I want to make it the best Christmas ever, because our time with
Yeah.
her is limited. And she'd always have a wish list. I'd be like, "What do you want to do?" And she'd always want a day in Seattle, and well, I'd make her dad do that, and all these different things. But literally, like in my calendar, it would just be scheduled out every day. This is what we're going to hit, this box for her. We're going to hit this box. We're going to hit these 3 boxes on this day, and just all the
Yeah.
things. And literally, I'd also have to kind of clear my schedule, do a whole bunch of things in advance, put off a whole bunch of things in order to be all about her on that week.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
obviously it was fun stuff I want to do too, most of it, and my daughter as well. So it just was a big list. And I tried to do all the things because I did not want her to go home disappointed.
Yeah.
I wanted her to have memories. I mean, the desire was right,
Yeah.
but I put so much on myself to make that happen. I didn't want any conflict. And I wanted it to feel magical and hallmarky, but the problem is it always backfired, and it usually backfired. And it ended up like it did disappoint and create conflict.
Yeah.
And it was mentally and emotionally draining for me to prep for it and for me to recover from it. I don't know
Yeah.
about everybody else, but for me, it
Mm.
was exhausting.
Sounds exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, even thinking about it, like my chest is getting heavier, my shoulders are going up, right?
Yeah, your body remembers how you felt during that time.
And it was just like constantly on for her.
Yeah.
And she never asked me to do that.
Yeah.
I could have picked one or two things off the list, which eventually we did get to that. And I remember one year we had snow and
Mhm.
and ice, and we couldn't
Mm.
do about half of the list. And
Yeah.
I knew she was disappointed, and I kind of was too, but we just found other things to do. It was fun. So
Mhm. Mhm.
less stressful. It was very peaceful.
Yeah, right?
Snow walks, making snowmen. We just revised it.
Mm. Yeah. That sounds a lot calmer
Yeah.
or
So
doable.
looking at a little bit more at boundaries, just setting boundaries even all year long can really help. Um,
Yeah.
and here's three just quick bullet points. Like when you set boundaries, you preserve your mental and emotional well being.
Yeah.
So, not just at the holidays, like my example there, but all the time. And I've
Mhm.
had to learn this one the hard way, and I'm still working on it. It also promotes healthy relationships.
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't set boundaries. I'm speaking for myself because we don't want someone to not be happy with us. So the people pleasing or whatever number of reasons.
Yeah.
But really, that is hurting our relationship. No, we think it's helping. We want to promote peace. But
Yeah.
really, what I learned is I'm sacrificing my own peace for
Mhm.
the sake of this artificial peace that's not really there
Yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah.
it's not really the best way to have healthy relationships is to have no boundaries at all and do whatever anybody else wants you to do. It doesn't work.
No, it really doesn't for both people because like
Yeah.
the relationship doesn't get that chance to even grow. Like the person
Yeah.
that you like a person feels like they're doing this for that person, like pleasing that person, that person doesn't even get the chance to get to know that this person,
Yeah.
the other person's not really, their heart's not in that. That's not what they desire. And
Yeah.
yeah, it really gives the relationship a chance to grow. That's what I have found. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Healthy.
I didn't practice using my voice and say, this is
Yeah.
what I would like to similar to you. Like, you know what I really want
Mhm.
on Christmas morning is to be home. Well, I wouldn't say that. Like, I wouldn't want to, I would just take, like, I'll just be humble and let everybody have their way kind of a
Mm.
attitude. But in the
Uh-huh.
end, that's not the way to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
I need to use my voice. I need to say what I
Uh-huh.
want. I don't need to always get what I want, but I
Right.
need to say what I want
Yeah. Mhm.
and be able to say it. Yeah.
And sometimes I've found when I have done that, then my girls are like with that being home on Christmas morning thing, it turned out they didn't even realize, but that's what they wanted too. When
Oh,
I said
yeah.
it, then it was like, "Oh, yeah, that we want that too," So,
Yeah.
yeah, you just never know if you don't say it.
Because if they're not home, how does Santa come if you're not home? Okay.
Exactly, right?
All right. All right, the third bullet point, right? So we've got boundaries help us preserve mental and emotional well being, promote healthy relationships, and prevent resentment and frustration. So I just have another example here that's relative to holidays is I would try to do everything myself. I mean, this is just a bit how I am wired at all times and still am, unfortunately, to just do it myself. I'm going to do all the food. I'm going to do everything. And because I like to cook, so I could just do it. And I want to make everybody else, have an easy time and I'll just enjoy my cooking. But then I would end up, I'd notice like later that night, particularly like when the food is inhaled with not much gratitude for the work I just put into it. Did you
Yeah,
people not see what I just did for you?
and they didn't
Do
probably.
you see the sweat on my
Yeah,
brow? Do you see the pile
right?
of dirty dishes? No,
Yeah,
not much gratitude, right? They're just enjoying, just enjoying the
yeah,
holidays. And so it's on me that I would get frustrated
yeah.
and I'd feel like a martyr because
Mhm.
no one was helping.
Yeah,
But remember, I didn't let them help. I never delegated anything. I never
yeah,
said, I could really use this right now. And sometimes I
yeah,
would do that and I'd get attitude. So I'd be like, whatever, I don't want attitude. So,
yeah,
I am the one who overcommitted us like on a particular day, like thought I could fit more in. And then I'm frustrated that we tried to do so much and nobody's helping me with the food. Well, I'm the one who
Yeah.
put in too much in a day and still tried to cook the magical meal,
Right.
That's on me. It's on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
resentment and frustration comes from lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
I
For sure.
am not using my voice and saying, I need help, or this year I'm not doing it all.
Hmm.
And I noticed that in some years where I would just decide to downgrade the meal, nobody
Hmm.
cared. Nobody really cared.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I fed them. They're happy. It's all good.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point with the food. And I think about my example with the um going years where we were not at home on Christmas morning and the resentment that did build in me toward my in-laws,
Yeah.
which was not fair at all because they had no idea that I was holding this hope that we were home in the morning and they were
Yep.
doing nothing to prevent that from happening. We just needed to talk about it the next year. And it was painful. Like you said, how sometimes you would get pushback if you did ask for help or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
That is a risk for
Yep.
sure. But if you don't say anything, I finally came to that point. Like if I did not say anything, not only was I not going to be home on Christmas morning like I wanted to, but that resentment and bitterness was going to build and
Mm-hmm.
spread and get spewed out at everybody else around me and everything. All the while, it had nothing to do with the people that
Yeah.
I was feeling it towards.
It
So
will affect your relationship with them, and they're not even aware of what's going on because you kept it inside.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, even just thinking right there, listeners, I just feel the desire to just pause just for a second and let you think about that. Like, I mean, Michelle's example of food is so tangible, like the food and the dishes and all of that. Like, maybe you could just pause and think for a second about, or pause the podcast and think about, like, how can you do it differently this year? And, even ahead of time, like send a text, like, hey, I feel like, I might be overwhelmed. Like I sometimes get overwhelmed after,
Mm.
with all the dishes. Do you think you could be, in charge of that, or you and so, or, just be thinking ahead of time right now. Like what's one little thing you could ask? Yeah.
Delegate. Yeah.
Delegate. Yeah. Okay, well, along those lines, we love to give you questions. I'm a fan of questions. Michelle and I have both gone through Live Well health coach training through
Mm-hmm.
Revelation Wellness, and we learned about open-ended questions, or ORs. And so I want to give you some of those. So these are questions to help you figure out your boundaries. Maybe you're listening and you're going, "Oh, boundaries, that sounds cool, but I don't know anything about boundaries. I haven't read all the Henry Cloud books and all the things. What are we talking about here?" So these questions might help you get at, like, what are some of your boundaries? And we will share this worksheet that I just, very simple worksheet that I created, that you can go through and just take notes of what comes up for you. So one question is, what went well last year? The flip side of that is, what did not go well last year? So you want to give yourself some time with each of these questions and let yourself think about them. Um, I call this worksheet holiday dreaming. So you can dream about what your holiday might be like. What are non-negotiables for you that you need to voice? What can you let go of and still have the holiday season you desire? My example of that was the Christmas Eve. I wanted to go to church on Christmas Eve, but I had to let go. It didn't work out to go to our church always. How do you hope to feel the day after Christmas? And who do you need to talk to in order to have a different holiday season this year? There usually is someone that you need to talk to, and that
Mm-hmm.
is can be challenging, but it is part of it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I like that one about, I think it's not a normal question we would consider, is how we want to feel after. We just assume that we're going to wake up after the big events or all the people and just be like normal. But if you look back at past Christmases and try to remember, um this could be applicable to New Year, any big event, lots of people, but how did you feel in past years, and did you like that feeling? Do you remember it? Because usually you do. You remember, like, I
Yeah.
could not get out of bed for a day or two. Or I
Right.
was overwhelmed with the mess and I just froze. You might
Yeah.
remember some of those things, which would inform your decisions for this year before we go
Yeah.
too much deeper into the month. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It's good.
So let me read Hebrews 4:15. This is the true gift that we have. Hebrews says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin."
Mm.
I think that this morning I was just doing like a little reflection on through this app I have. I was looking at my weaknesses and my strengths. And what I loved about it was it had the opportunity or the encouragement to invite God into those weak areas and ask for help. So you have this reflection and awareness of your weaknesses and how they affect people, and then you ask God in for that help. But there's this power in just acknowledging that we have weaknesses, and our high priest Jesus, he knew about that. It's no surprise to him that we have weaknesses.
Yeah, right. And he's close. I love that he's close to us. And yeah, so that truth that Michelle just described by reading Hebrews, and then also the reflection that she shared, that truth that Jesus came to be present and close with us, to have relationship with us, that like resting in that truth can transform your Christmas. I mean, we can give you all the questions in the world, to reflect on and everything, but really sitting with that truth that that he came to be present and close with us, Emmanuel with us, that can transform your Christmas. The truth that truth can serve as being like the root of how you can even have a simple Christmas, like being okay, being content and satisfied with just a simple Christmas that focuses on Jesus being present. That it sounds kind of corny maybe, but the true gift of Christmas is Jesus, right? It's not going to all the events and things. I was thinking about how sometimes people wake up the next morning after a big event, and maybe this is why they're disappointed. Maybe they are like feeling disappointed because it's over. But I encourage you to think about, is that really why? Is it maybe because you weren't as present as you could have been, you were holding some resentments and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So our prayer, this comes from a devotional that Michelle and I read. This Christmas, as we celebrate his coming, I pray this truth dawns on your spirits more than ever before, that you have his peace. You are loved, not by someone far off, but by one whose name is Emmanuel, God with us. Thank God he came. So some simple steps for you to just incorporate boundaries into your season are to use that holiday dreaming worksheet that we will share with you in the show notes and probably on social media as well. And then another idea is just to take 2 minutes, could be 1 minute even, and just list either verbally out loud or write out all the ways in which Jesus is a gift for you.
Love those 2 steps. Okay, friends. Well, that is Christmas number 2. And please do check back next week for the power of words. Going to be such a powerful episode. It's going to be so good. And jump into our Facebook group where we're going to be discussing all these things. And we can support each other there, right? We can say, you can do it. Set your boundaries. Delegate. We can cheer each other on in the Facebook group. And please share these episodes with friends who you might know struggle with these things too. And we're just thankful that you keep listening. So we will see you next week. Bye, friends.
Bye. We are so glad you joined us today, and we hope we've inspired you to take that one simple step for the whole you.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast, would you help us spread the word by passing it on to your friends and family, and also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram, and those links are in the show notes. And as always, consult your healthcare provider before implementing any major exercise or diet changes. We hope to see you next week. Bye.